I'm Amanda Silver.
And I'm Alex Howard.
And this is Dirty Laundry. Welcome, Shannon.
Welcome back to Dirty Laundry. Today we have the brilliant and beautiful Shannon Talbot, who is a coach, an author, a speaker, an all-around good gal, and a family that I married into. Just keep it real. Shannon and my husband Jonathan are cousins. And really, she's like just another sister.
So nice.
Yeah, it is. It's been, I guess now 17 years we have known each other.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That's how long I've known Jonathan, yeah.
Okay.
Oh my God, from that awkward moment where he brought me into your office. This is the most cliche
Why did he
Jonathan
bring
Howard
you into
move.
her office?
He just, like, how I know that I teeter very highly on the social anxiety spectrum. And my darling husband is the polar. Yeah, no, I've dove into the deep end for sure. He's the polar opposite. Like, he walks into a room and he's like, yes, all these new friends to meet. I walk in and I'm like, get me the fuck out of here. So early in our dating years, we were like downtown, I'm probably getting a drink or going for dinner. I was like, oh, you should come meet my cousin Shannon. I'm like, oh, all right, cool. Like, I don't really know what that entails. So he knocks on some like back alley door.
Random door.
The weirdest situation. I'm like, I thought she worked for a bank. Like, this is so sketchy. Knocking on this back alley door. Some other woman answers like, hi, we're looking for Shannon. Yeah, come on up. And I'm like, nice to meet you. And then she's like, cool, I'm at work. And I'm like, I'm on a really awkward date. So we're going to go
It's
now.
the middle of your workday?
Oh yeah, middle of the workday. All open space,
Yeah.
like
What
open
What did he
concept.
expect at this? Like, what were you guys going to do at that
Hilarious.
point?
Just so enthusiastic
He
for
was
like
really excited to show
connecting
you
people.
off.
Yeah.
Well, maybe
He
that's
was.
a nice way of
That's so
looking
Because I'll
at it.
never
Nice.
forget him asking my opinion of
Oh.
you two going away. I think it was to Dominican.
Oh, yeah.
Because you two had just started dating, and him and I went for lunch. He would just knock on the door at my
Knocks
work.
on the back alley door.
Gosh,
It was a random. We were in like where we would normally sit was too full, so we got put in this random office with this wooden door. And he came and knocked on it, and we went for lunch. And he's like, "I've been dating this girl. I don't know, like 2 weeks maybe."
Pretty much.
And he's like, "Do I go to Dominican? Do I ask her?" And I'm like, "Well, it'll either make it or break it.
Yeah.
Like, go for it."
Yep.
And you did, right? You
We
went?
did. We
Yeah.
went.
You went to
To
Dominican.
be fair, I brought a
2
friend.
kids later. Wait,
I brought a girlfriend because I was like, I'm not going to go and like room up. It's been 2 weeks. This
I
is
don't know.
sketchy for sure. No. And he was going with like 5 friends.
okay, there was a whole group.
So it was like me and 5 of his bros from high school. I'm like, this is uber sketchy. And if it sucks, that really sucks. So I'll bring a friend. So if it
Okay.
sucks, I have a pal and we'll
So
just
did
like,
you
do
room
a
with your
Dominican.
friend and he roomed with
Yeah.
his? Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it worked out.
Okay.
There was some room swapping,
I
but
was going to say.
we get the
I
PG
would-
in the beginning. Well, thank you for your good advice because here we are. Yeah,
Yeah,
17 years
look at
later.
that.
Amazing.
And so, speaking about you, because that's why we're all here. So you started off in the corporate world
Mhm.
and then left it. It's a very brave, bold choice. Which, for those who don't know Shannon, I'm looking at you, Amanda, because this is the first time you're meeting. That is kind of on brand. You do take risks. You do make bold moves. You know, going to Peru on exchange, that's terrifying, but you did that. So it is kind of on brand for you, but I imagine that was a really, really hard transition.
You know what's funny is I was just talking to somebody yesterday because I get told that a lot.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was such a big
Yeah.
risk. It was so bold. I'm like, I don't actually feel that way
Interesting.
because it was the right move.
Right.
And sure, had I gone into work one day and been like, I quit,
Right.
I'm out of here, people, peace. Had I done that,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
would have been a big move. My husband would have
Yeah.
killed me.
Yeah.
And leading up to me leaving work, I wanted to quit. Like
Mhm.
I was so miserable at work. I had 0 work-life balance.
Yeah.
It was during the height of the pandemic when, I'm seeing everyone baking bread and I'm like, I don't even
Yeah.
have a minute
Yeah.
to do
Right.
anything. I was just like, I wanted to quit then,
Mm-hmm.
but we wouldn't have been able to do it financially. So for me, it was finding a plan and
Yeah.
figuring it out and putting money aside and doing it on the side
Right.
before leaving.
Mhm.
And so then when it happened, it was like the next logical step. And yeah, it's risky. Like, I went from getting a paycheck every 2 weeks to not knowing exactly where my next dollar is coming from. But you could be let go tomorrow
It's true.
That's true.
It's
in
true.
the corporate world.
Really, you
And
took the
so-
control back and
Yeah.
decided your own life's course. which reminds me a lot about divorce. Just to bring it back.
Similar to like
it is
your
really
planning
similar.
stage versus just making the cut.
Yes.
Because there's some people do both, right? Like some people decide they walk into their corporate job and they're like, I am done. Like there's an inciting incident, they've had it, they're done, they walk away. Yep. Or other people plan it and they put money aside and they make all of the, the strategic decisions. But same with marriage.
Right.
Some people are like, that's it, I am done. Other people are like, you know what, they teeter on it for a while and they come to the same, I guess, choice.
Yeah. And even more so this sort of idea that we all have of, the social norm kind of accomplishments in life that we check off, right? Yeah. Marriage, good job, bought a home, had these kids. It's like this to-do list of life. And when you upset the apple cart, it is really shocking. And often people have a bigger reaction. Like for you to say, actually, it wasn't really that big of a deal. I knew it was right for me. It's the other people in our lives that have a bigger reaction. So me being like, wow, so brave, so amazing. And similarly, you with the divorce world, so brave, so amazing to leave your marriage because on paper you have it all. Yeah. But when you're not happy, having it all is having nothing.
You don't have it all.
You've got nothing.
No.
And I think it's funny. I was just thinking about this morning. Society sets us up for such high and fake expectations. Yeah. So, the dream job.
Yeah.
I used to think my job was the dream job because I have my title and my salary.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, but no, sure, it brought me joy and I had great experiences. I met amazing people. But I'm like, wasn't that dream job? And then, till death do us part in marriage vows. Yeah. Why does it have to be that? Like, why does that have to be a line? I'm sure people are getting rid of it. I'm sure not everyone's saying that, but it's just
it's true.
Ridiculous that we have these forever home. Yeah. We have all these unrealistic expectations in our lives and things don't go as planned. Yeah. And we're allowed to change our minds. Yeah. We're allowed to change what we want and what we go after. Yeah. And that's totally okay.
It's totally okay. Yeah. You're allowed to get out of the box that you put yourself in.
Well, exactly.
Right?
And your box, your dream job might be the dream job for somebody else. Your marriage might be a better suited marriage for somebody else. And there's no problem with saying, I've changed. I've grown. My priorities have changed. My interests have changed. Like, no longer are we dying, between 40 and 50 and getting married at like 13 because that's when you're like the most fertile. Like the world has changed around us. So why are we all stuck in these patterns and in this box? So you left your corporate life. You said, sayonara, I want to be a life coach.
Yeah.
What does that look like? What does the reality of that look like? Because I think, again, you're happily married, which is spectacular. But I think a lot of our listeners are kind of in this purgatory, I guess, of like, we often say, do I stay? Do I go? Right? Like, what is this big life change? And what does it actually look like on the other side? And for you, it was a big life change.
Huge.
So how do you get to that point and finally prepare to like pull the plug and dive headfirst?
Experienced a house renovation or just seen one on TV. We've all seen the home renos or even just like house decor updates, things like that. So it starts with a vision, right? It starts with the idea that something might be better than what you're in right now, right? So whether it is that marriage, whether it is that job, whatever it is for you, starts with, okay, I have this vision that even though things may look amazing on paper, it's not what I want anymore. Yeah. What I want is this. Well, what happens next in a house renovation? Tear down, demolition, mess, dust. You might have to eat off of paper plates for, a month. You might have to move into your basement or rent a place or, things might cost a lot more money. Things go off track. They don't go according to plan. And occasionally the right decision may be to abandon the renovation or whatever that is. But more likely than not, you're going to see it through. Yeah. You're going to go through the mess. You're going to do the work because the vision's worth it. And the vision may not end up exactly as how you pictured it, but it could end up even better. And you won't know until you go through it. Yeah. I think that's the same for any transition, right? It's hard work. Just making the decision alone isn't easy, whatever you're deciding to stop doing. But if you don't want to be stuck anymore, you don't want to be unhappy or miserable anymore, you got to make the decision. You got to do it. You got to cut the cord and then you got to do the work. And even for me as an entrepreneur, it is a roller coaster. I have higher highs and lower lows than I've ever had in my life. And the lower lows suck. Yeah. They suck. And the money, not knowing where the next paycheck comes from sucks. but also I could get a call tomorrow and be set for my next 2 months.
Right.
So it's like, it's exciting,
Yeah.
but it's tough. And it, like anything, it takes time.
Yeah.
Right?
And I love that you say that the outcome may be different, because I think we're so afraid of the unknown that we'd rather stay, because what could be is way too terrifying than what already is. So even if you're unhappy, it's like, well, it's the devil I know. I'd rather stay. So how do you use those lows to sort of propel you or keep you moving at least, right? Because there are days when I don't want to get out of bed, when similarly my day sucks, or my bank account is depleted, or I have no other clients coming down the pipeline. It's like, oh my God, now what? How do you use that to propel you forward?
So the biggest thing I do is journal. And it sounds really simple, and it is. It's actually really simple. So I actually have an exercise. I have it in my book, and I also do it with all my clients. And it is to come up with your 10 big feels.
Okay.
And it's to think 10 years from now, which I know sounds really far away sometimes, but I like to say 10 years because then we don't get bogged down in the how. If we say just like, oh, in 1 year from now, sometimes our brains go to, that's ridiculous. That's not possible. It's not going to happen.
Right.
So think 10 years from now, what do you want your life to look like? But more importantly, how do you want it to feel? Right? Because we attach our definition of success a lot of times with material things or titles or like things that, yes, are great, and go by all means pursue them if it's going to bring you joy, but also look at the bigger picture, right? So for me, a big thing was, having more time, quality time with my kids. That was a big one I wasn't getting in the corporate world. So I have a line about that. I have a line about my kids being really good humans. And I come up with these 10 dreams. And as of right now, because I started them a while ago, my dreams are for 2030. But if you're doing them now, it'd be for like 2034. And I write them down. And the key is you write them down as if they've happened. So in the present tense, and with really great descriptor words, right? So maybe you want to find love again. And it's like, what does that next love look like? Like, what are some descriptive words you could use for that? Or maybe you have, a big goal around being more financially independent or something there. What does that look like? And it's something that when you read it, it's going to get you excited, but also because it's so far out, it gives you the hope that, hey, I've got lots of time to figure this out and get there. And I write those down, those 10 things down every day, Monday to Friday. And then when I'm feeling really shitty, I'll sit down and I will literally write, why am I feeling shitty today? And I'll list out why. And there's something about getting stuff out of our head and onto paper that once you do, you're like, okay, really, my life's not that bad. Once you get it out. And then I go back to the hope. And it's like, okay, what are those things that I am excited about? And what can I start to do? And what are my priorities? And I literally just start writing. And it gets me, again, not saying like we're not going to be happy all the time, but it gets me a little bit higher out of the hole I'm feeling that day.
And is that just because you feel like you're being proactive or like or just active, I guess? Like you're doing something that gets you out of that sort of ruminating mindset.
Yeah. I guess it's to just stop the spiral, right?
When you're going into
down.
that like downward mental, like emotional spiral, like you can write it down and get it out.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's also true. Like in the work that we do, I always say to my clients, like they have all these feelings and they want to write all these nasty things to their ex-spouse and they're so upset. And I'm like, okay, write it all out. Like write it all out. Send it to me and like just get it out. But like don't send it to them. Just get it out. Sometimes just writing it, typing it up. It's like that practice really helps.
Yeah.
Yeah. We always want to do something, I think, that like involves other people. Like I'm going to go talk to this person or I'm going to go network, or like these are the actions that we maybe think we need to take. Or in the case of divorce, I'm going to go, point out all the ways that they're shitty this week. When really it is about looking inward and doing the work inward first. Your book, which I devoured in like a second, it's so wonderful, but it's this perfect marriage, of the sort of you being vulnerable with your beautiful stories and then being so practical with your exercises. How did you decide on taking that framework when writing your book?
So for me, like I'm 42 now, just to give everyone an idea of how old I am. So when I was in the corporate world, when I started working, it was 2005.
Wow.
And I would say, I look back and I'm like, 2005 to 2008, I kicked ass.
Okay.
I did amazing.
Yes.
I'd met my husband. I did really well at work, blah, blah. 2008, I got married and I got a new title, wife.
Mm.
And I did it to myself. I set ridiculous expectations on myself and said, oh, Shannon, you're a wife now, even though we've been living together. Like literally nothing changed except we had the signed paperwork.
Yeah. And a very fun party.
Yes, we had an amazing wedding. So fun.
It wasn't just paperwork. It was a really good time.
It was a really good time. But I put these expectations on myself. I was like, oh, you're a wife now. You have to do these wifely duties that I didn't do. Like, I don't like cooking. I don't know how to sew. I don't know how to garden. Like all this stuff that I was like, I don't know how to do it. But then I felt this pressure. Oh, I should. Mm. So I started to lose a bit of myself then. Mm. And then I started to, later as I became a people manager at work, lost a bit of myself there because I told myself, oh, now you have to be this way. And then later, and it took us, we couldn't get pregnant and went through fertility and then eventually adopted our kids. But through all that, I was like, where are the stories of other women who have maybe lost themselves because of marriage or are struggling with motherhood and ambition or careers or all of that? Like, I was like, where are these stories? And there were stories like Michelle Obama's book, Becoming, really helped me. But there were uber celebrities who, yes, I still enjoy their books.
Right.
But I was like, where are the everyday people?
Yeah. The actual people
like
you can really relate to, right?
Exactly. Where are their stories? Yeah. So I envisioned, okay, I want to write a book that can help people with real life relatable stories. So I use a lot of my stories, and I also include the stories of 10 other amazing, I say everyday in quotes because they're amazing women, but it is more, women you can relate to. And then I'm also a big believer, like we learn through storytelling, but we also learn through action. Mm-hmm. So for me, and I really thought people were going to hate this. So when I sent out my book to some beta testers, I was like, they're going to come back and they're going to be like, oh my God, I'm not doing your exercises. And I really thought they were going to say no, or there's too many, they're too much. And they actually loved the balance. And it's true because here's the thing, like stories can inspire us. We can learn from them, but then we also need the steps of what you do?
Tell me what to do. How do I do that?
Exactly.
Yeah. Without paying somebody thousands and, hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Yeah. But that's such when you're listening to a podcast and people are talking and they're inspirational. And you're agreeing and you're like, okay, but what do I do?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What's next for me? And this book answers that.
Yeah. And it allows folks to do the work themselves, which is also really empowering, right? So to your point, you get inspired by these women, by your own stories, and then immediately you get to go work on yourself. So it's like catching the tide while it's still good and still so powerful, and using that to catapult. I loved it.
I want to talk about the change. I mean, you went from corporate world to coaching, but I want to talk about the change for a lot of people, at least in our world, of stay-at-home mom to going back into the workforce.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is a big transition. So some women find themselves not only transitioning to being single mom, but they're also now having to go back to a career, or they're starting a new career because their career is kind of like outdated.
Yeah.
So what is your advice for people like that, making that transition?
Yeah. And I do work with a lot of women in that realm. And what I see a lot of times is, and for anyone in that situation listening, you don't give yourself enough credit. What I've experienced is, I'll be coaching someone and they're like, oh, but I'm not qualified, or I don't have the experience, or I've been out of the workforce for so long, I don't know what's going on anymore. Like, those are things you can learn on the job. Don't discount yourself. Don't not apply for something because you feel like you're not capable. You are more than capable. And probably to the experiences you have gone through, staying at home with your kids, navigating, legal system because of your divorce, all of this stuff has given you so much more experience than so many people in the workforce, that I think there are such highly transferable skills between what you've gone through and getting back into the workforce that I think whether yourself or a friend or a mentor or a coach can help you to tease those out. And really to, go through, I call your triumphs list. So going through and creating a list of basically all of your triumphs. And when I work with my clients, I have them start when they're little kids.
Oh, wow.
Right? Because it's kind of like, oh, what have I really done? I haven't done that much. No, first of all, and a lot of our triumphs sound the same. You learn to walk, you learn to crawl, you learn to ride your bike, swim, blah, 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 right? Then what else did you do? What's unique to you? Did you learn another language? Did you, I don't know, take acting classes?
Yeah.
Did you learn an instrument? What are all of these things? And it's reminding yourself of all of the things you've learned. What have you had to overcome? Right? What are all the things you've faced in your life that you had to overcome and make you who you are today? And you create that big, big, big long list and you keep going and you keep going and you keep going until today. And then it's a great reminder of how awesome you are and how unique you are. And I think that's the first step is building your confidence back up and just reminding yourself of your greatness. And then the second step is networking. Really networking is huge. Reaching out to people, asking for help. I know that's another thing, especially women can have a hard time doing, right?
Yeah.
We don't like asking for help, but asking for help, saying, hey, you know what? I'm looking for a job, or do you know anyone? Can you help me? Because a lot of times it is through word of mouth and connections and things like that.
Yeah, we alluded earlier to sort of society setting you up for failures, but I think you've really touched on that as well, which is we are sold this bill almost when we're girls that like, you don't ask for help. You got to be able to do everything yourself. You have to be independent. Yeah, you can have it all. You can be a mom and a boss and this, but there's this hidden list of expectations that come along with that promise to, have the whole cake and eat it too. Like you can do it all, but you actually can't. And in fact,
you shouldn't.
And your whole training has been to set you up for failure because there are these sort of constraints that's the world we live in. So getting past it, I love that. Build your confidence up first. And we don't, again, as women, I'm generalizing, but we don't take the time to congratulate ourselves. For me, it wasn't until I had kids when I realized, I have to role model this shit because I want to break the cycle. Where like, I'll put on a cute top or I'm going out and I'll be like, damn, mom looks good today. And then I'll walk out the door. And ironically, I was doing that as a practice of just complimenting myself or pumping my own tires in front of my children as like a parenting strategy. Meanwhile, I was like, shit, this is working. I'm starting to believe this. I do look good today. I am going to go crush this, interview or whatever. I'm going to get this client. Like, we don't realize how powerful our self-talk is. And when you go through something, when you are in major transition, you are at your lowest. Divorce, career, it doesn't really matter what that low is, but it's, spending that time looking inwards and the sort of forced, uncomfortable congratulations to ourselves, quite frankly, just for surviving.
Totally.
And it is, we've done so much. And when we only look at the boxes we have to tick based on, society's expectations, we are always going to lose. So it's like, ditch those expectations. And come up with your own list that just makes you feel good about yourself. I love that. I mean, I hate the networking part, but I realize that it's important. So I'm not going to poo-poo on it.
That's how you bring me along.
Yeah,
we do it together.
Find a friend, partner.
Well, that's true too, though.
Totally.
It is. It's finding someone. You don't have to do it all alone either, right? You're heading back into the workforce. If you're starting a new career, find someone to do it with.
Bring a wingman.
There you go.
Regardless of what you need that buddy for, even if it is 100%. Just to give you a sense of confidence. That's definitely you. I'll bring you around everywhere I go. So one of the things that, again, we talk about here in terms of the like staying or going in your marriage is this idea of really sort of stick with itness in any category, right? It doesn't really matter.
No.
And how do we know when it's right to quit? And how do we know when we're quitting too soon? And that's a big question. So I appreciate, that maybe that's too much, but I just think, we, again, maybe as women, but we're taught that you just push through, just suck it up, just work harder, wake up earlier, go to bed later, like be so selfless. But in the end, you'll be rewarded in some kind of capacity, right? And so often we are so consumed with that narrative that we don't realize that the one thing we should do is quit.
And give ourselves permission to be like, you know what? That's done. That chapter is done.
And that's
okay.
a good thing.
It's a good thing because I'm going to make room for something that's better.
So are there ways of knowing?
Oh, that's a tough one.
It is.
It's so tough, I think, for anyone in this situation. But I think, again, what we don't do enough of as women is trust our gut.
Mm-hmm.
And in this one, I'm going to say gut because your head is going to be telling you one thing. Your head's probably going to be telling, oh, Alex, try one more time. Like maybe if you guys go to one more couples therapist or do one more date night, maybe that's the one that'll turn everything around. But if that's been the narrative in your head for, I don't know, 6 months, a year, whatever timing, right? There's no right or wrong time. But if that's been consistent, what does your gut say? Yeah. Does your gut say it's time? And then the other part, our heart, we don't want to break our hearts, right? It sucks. Heartbreak sucks. Yeah. But they mend. So it's like if your heart is also like, oh, but I just don't want to really go through this heartbreak. It's like, but what's your gut saying? Yeah. What is the long-term feeling you want in your life? And it's so tricky. And we're told to not trust our gut. And we're told to, go and survey 10 of our girlfriends and be like, what do you think I should do in this? Yeah. And it's like at the end of the day, you need to own the decision and ideally with as little regret as possible, right? So yes, you want to try everything, you want to do it. But if you've done it and it still didn't change, then it's probably that time to make that hard decision.
And writing that list of feelings. Like, how do you want to feel in a year from now? Not what do you want your marital status to be or your job title to be.
Or what kind of car you want to drive.
Or your postal code to be. Like,
how do you want to feel?
How do you want to feel? Yeah. Because that's something that we can actually look inward and go, well, right now I'm feeling completely torn and miserable and sick to my stomach every single time I have to go to work. Okay, so what would you rather feel? And then almost like work it backwards from the feeling. Well, how do you get there?
Yeah.
Yeah, the feelings are really important. And that is kind of our superpower, I think, as women.
Yeah.
I mean, one of our many.
And also, Alex, because you said it too, if you have kids.
Yeah.
Also, what example do you want to set for your kids?
That's a conversation I have with so many women too. It's like, they're like, well, I don't want to leave because I don't want to break up the family. And I want to stay for the kids. I'm like, but you're showing them that it's okay to stay in a relationship that doesn't fulfill you, that doesn't make you happy. So is that what you want to show them? Like, and that's a hard thing to accept.
And we do, especially in the eyes of our children, want to look like we've got all our shit together.
Yeah, you don't want
we know what's going on. And
or
part of that is important in terms of like actually, child rearing is you don't want them to feel like you don't have your shit together because that creates insecurity. Now it's like, oh my God, do I have to become the parent because like mom can't get out of bed every day? Like this is a big thing, right? So this is what we always do. We rationalize. Well, but I think if I stay for a little bit longer, we do need that paycheck, so I won't quit my job, or well, Christmas is coming, so I don't want to break up the family today. I'll wait till January.
We're almost done high school, then they're going to go to university, and then they'll be fine, and then I'll figure it out. I just want to get them through this stage of their life.
Yeah.
I think another trap that we as women fall into is what you call the 3 Ps. Can we talk about that?
Yeah. So the 3 Ps are perfectionism, people pleasing, and perception, which really means caring too much about what other people think.
Like, yes, tick.
I'm like, tick, 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 tick. Yes.
Yeah. And so how do we break free of that? Again, another really big question.
I know.
How do we get rid of it?
Yeah.
Which
step? Yeah. And it's hard because, again, we're taught, we're the way we're raised, and hopefully our generation of daughters, I don't have a daughter, but kids will be different, but prioritize yourself first.
Yes.
Right? Like it's the whole cliche, put your own oxygen mask on first.
Yeah.
It's so true. Yeah. Because if you're prioritizing yourself, your energy, your time, your needs first, the people who are important in your life are going to benefit. And the people who are the users of you, so they're now cut free, and that's good for you, right? Yeah. So if you're people pleasing because you don't want to disappoint people, did I say that right? Disappoint people. It sounded funny.
Sometimes I say things during the podcast. I'm like, what? How did that come out? All the time.
We just care too much about what other people think of us. That then we people please and we say yes to everything, and then everything that's on your priority list falls. I did a talk last week for an organization, And I asked them, and I'll ask all of you listening. Okay, so if I were to say, pick your top 5 priorities in your life right now, what would you put? And then I always follow up with, did you make it onto your list? The men always make it on their list. The men always make it on their list.
So they put themselves?
Like themselves being happy or
something related
something
to
about them.
Sometimes it's your health, like you're working out. Like sometimes it's very specific. Some people just put like myself.
Wow.
The women don't. They usually forget.
Even as you're saying this, I'm shocked that.
Or they put themselves, but I love the woman last week. Whenever I did this talk, a woman admitted she put herself on the list. She goes, but when something else comes up, I'm the first. I go first.
Yeah. So true.
So that's what we do. We take ourselves off the list. And I think you need to come back to what type of person will you be if you are happier or have more energy or just, or getting to do some stuff you enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah. The people pleasing and the perception, I think. Well, and even, I mean, Amanda and I have a coach and she always says, done is better than perfect.
Yes,
just do it and move on.
And it's hard. It really is so
near
hard.
impossible.
Yeah.
Because we do have this fear of what we put out there. And we so live in a world where we put everything out there right now. And how curated are you going to be in that image that you're putting out there?
And how censored are you going to be as well? Right? Like
it's not authentic. None of these platforms, in my opinion, have anything to do with authenticity.
No.
Or else it would be more like, look at my disastrous living room. There's 4 weeks worth of laundry that I've not got around to because I'm in the middle of binging a new show. That's the reality.
Yes.
But instead, we put on this, idea, this air of perfection. And then the only thing it leads to is other people feeling shitty.
Totally.
And quite frankly, us, because this is a bull-faced lie.
Yeah.
So instead, and again, I mean, this is, the rationale for our pod. This is the reason you're doing your work and writing your book is like, share your story, share your failures.
Real stories.
Share the messy, I like to say. I want to see
share your dirty laundry.
Messy Mondays. I think everyone should start sharing their messy, dirty laundry.
You know what? I want everyone to start sharing pictures of their dirty laundry.
We should do that.
We're going to do it.
Start a new viral trend.
Yeah. Sharing your
You heard it here first, people. Share your fucking piles of laundry.
I love that.
Because we had friends over on the weekend, right? And the little girl asked if she could go upstairs and see our bedroom. So, which is the 3rd floor. So I had everything else cleaned.
Yeah.
But no one ever goes upstairs. So I was like, you can, but I'm just warning you. It's a mess. I'm like, I have papers all over the floor. I've got books everywhere. My clothes are literally all over the floor.
Yeah.
Chris's clothes are all over the dresser. Blah, blah. And the other mom goes, he was sitting there. She goes, oh, that sounds exactly like my bedroom. But we don't show those pictures.
Nope.
Yeah, let's bond over the messiness instead of the need for perfectionism.
Yeah.
So what do you find are the most common pitfalls that people in transition?
I think not seeing it through. I think a lot of times we give up right before we get to the other side. I think sticking with it.
Yeah.
It's as sucks and as shitty as shitty as it feels.
Yeah.
It's worth it. So sticking through.
I feel like you really need to have good people in your corner.
Yes.
Like your cheerleaders.
To see beyond what you see.
They can see the bigger picture. Because often we get in the weeds and you have to, especially building a business or changing jobs or having a huge life change, is you can't see the forest for the trees or what is the opposite. I don't know.
That's so true. I think every life change.
Yeah. You need someone who can see past your limitations.
Correct.
Because we do set, I think, more limits on ourselves than we do freedoms or whatever the antithesis to limitations is. But so surrounding yourself with supportive people. And like you mentioned in the book, like Chris was really supportive when you wanted to switch your life, like your career path. Yeah. And
that's so important. I think that's key. I think when you're making a big career change, if your partner isn't supportive of it, that's got to be tough.
And I think the thing, so what I wasn't good at doing for many years was bringing my partner along for the journey. Mm-hmm. So whether it's your partner or a friend or whoever that person is for you, maybe it's a family member, bringing them along for the journey and, you making the case to them and letting them know here's what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And then bringing them through each stage. With Chris, I used to be like, I'm doing this, by the way. And like, that was end of discussion.
Yeah.
It's like, no one wants to be, that's not true partnership.
Yeah.
So I was not great for a long time at bringing him on for the journey. And I think it's also finding the right people too, because, and this is why I'm also a big believer in having the coach or the therapist or, a third party
Someone without
who is
emotional
not
stake.
biased.
Yeah.
Because you also need sometimes you need the person who is going to lift you up, right? No matter what. And sometimes you need the person who's going to call you out.
Yeah, the realist. Yeah.
And I have a woman I'm working with right now for my business. And we had to have like this big talk on Thursday. And I finally came to a realization that she was like, I could have, like, I knew that was where you were going to end up.
Right.
In day one. But she goes, but I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
Right? You have to do the work and get there on your own. And that's what, a third party can help you do too.
I literally just did that with a client. We finished like our 5 sessions. And so she's like, yeah, so I come to this conclusion. I'm like, yeah, perfect, great. I've been waiting for 5 sessions for you to get there, but I'm so happy you did. And then we had a good giggle. I knew it because we can see the bigger picture.
But if you tell someone,
you don't tell them what
they don't want. No.
You can't. You can't. It does the opposite. It has the opposite.
But I think having that person who loves you regardless, who can just be your cheerleader and just be in your corner, and then somebody who gives you maybe more of like the professional or unbiased advice, and then somebody who is, I almost feel like it is that really close girlfriend or somebody in your life. Maybe you have a good mother-daughter relationship, but somebody who's going to kind of be your checks and balances, who's going to push you just a little bit or question things or make you then question things. Like, I think, like, why are you doing this? Kind of finding that why in any sort of, big life changes, I think, sort of paramount to then making it, because then you're going through and you're like, oh, is this on track with why I wanted to do this in the first place?
With why you're making
that
choice.
Because once you leap in, great. Like, let's say you're committed, you're doing this, spectacular. But then how do you not quit? Right. How do you get out of bed and keep pushing yourself day in and day out when...
And then temptation to go back is there when you're doing career, right? When we're talking about career.
Well, even in the divorce world, we tell people trial separation.
Yeah, that's true. It's like, do I stay, do I go? Yeah. But like once you've already gone through the process and you've signed all the papers and it's pretty final. Sure. So that's that choice. But in terms of career, it's like, well, I've been giving it 6 months. Maybe I should go back to that kind of steady job. So it's staying it through.
Did you give yourself a timeline? I know we talked about this earlier. Yeah, Shannon and I basically kind of started our journey in these new career paths around the same time. And I think it was great. It was certainly great for me in terms of relationship, being like, hey, what are you up to?
Sometimes I was like, my butt. Yeah. So tell me more. Save me, because I'm like a recovering high achiever, I'll call myself. And talking about unrealistic expectations, I left a multi-6-figure job. Like, I was at the height of my career, making the best money I'd ever made to start my own business. And I told myself, well, I'm going to be making that money in 6 months. Like, WTF? Really? Who says that? And I'd never done sales or business development or anything, right? So I was like, oh, people are going to be lining up and I'm just going to be like rolling in the dough. And then I said, okay, if I'm not making that amount of money in 6 months, I'm going to go back to corporate. It's really hard to transition to go back. Once you're out, it's like, oh, I don't want to go back.
All of a sudden you have a work-life balance and you've...
So finally, I think I was talking to Alex and I was like, oh my God, I'm not even going to come close. Like, not even close to my financial goals. Yeah. And she's like, yeah, like, duh. And and it was just, I'd set unrealistic expectations. Yeah. And so that's when I had to really start and go back and, look at, what does success mean? Mm-hmm. Success isn't just a dollar amount. Success for me is spending time with my boys, walking them to school. Mm-hmm. I'd never been able to walk my boys to school or pick them up. And I was always jealous of the moms who could. Like, no, I want to do that. Yeah. And that's what success means. Yeah. And so I had to change my whole definition and broaden it beyond the money and focus on that.
Yeah, as you said, we're so fixated on the material as marks of success, but really
we can't take it with us.
No. And what does success mean to you? Something so small is just walking the kids to school.
Yeah.
Something as soon as my kids go walk to school on their own, I was like, thank fucking Lord,
I'm almost there now.
Yeah. We walking those rascals to school. They're always kicking stones or picking up sticks.
They're dawdling, they're taking
Such
forever.
dawdling.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hurry up.
Yes. Doesn't count as steps when you walk your kids to school.
Exactly. My watch always ends your walk. I'm still walking. It's just slow. But really, it's
having it's having the opportunity.
Yes. I think it's just having the choice. Do I want to walk them or don't I?
Knowing it's
Being
there.
like having the autonomy to live your life by your set of rules.
Yeah.
And it's, listen, easier said than done. Now you've been in it for a bunch of years, and I'm not going to make you say whether you've hit your dollar signs or not but that's the thing.
Still working on
and we
it.
need to share more of that. Of
Money. I
but
think that's
you
everything. Money. We need to, and it's funny. I send an email every Sunday night, and because I'm so sick of people's highlight reels,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to start sharing some truth bombs.
I love it.
I love this.
That
I think we
all
all
need to hear.
Yeah.
Like share the worst part of your week.
Biggest
But
failures.
also too, while you're in it. I
Yes,
think that's
like-
the thing. We tell ourselves,
Yes.
I can't share it until I'm out the other side.
Yeah.
And especially as coaches or professionals.
Totally.
Yeah.
We're like, ooh,
We're supposed to have it figured out.
We can't share that.
Right.
Yep.
And it's like, why not?
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
not?
It does make us more relatable, but you're right. Finding that balance as a professional who's supposed to be then giving people, guidance on how they're going to find their successes amongst their failures, amidst their failures, whatever the wording is. And you're like, oh yeah, cool. I'm also in the middle of failing, but let me be your
That's
guru.
the thing. It's like a fine balance.
It's
It is.
tricky.
It is a fine
Right.
balance.
So I
Like,
think it's
totally.
more
Let me help you get your life together, but mine's falling apart.
Yeah.
Like you
Do as I
can't-
say, not as I do.
Yeah.
But I think,
definitely.
it's more about just with friends, with family, with people who you don't have to technically, keep up appearances.
Yeah.
That's when we need to let it all hang out. That's when the truth needs to really happen.
Yeah.
And we need to not be afraid of being vulnerable. And really, that's when connections happen. That's when you build
Yes.
real relationships.
When people say, "How are you?" I've stopped saying, "Oh, I'm great. How are you?" I'll be like, "Well, it's been a tough morning." Like I've tried to be conscious of that and actually connect with people and actually you know what? I'm having a crappy day.
Yeah.
Or oh my God.
Yeah.
Like the kids this morning or whatever it is.
Yeah,
like didn't sleep last night, but
totally.
like you asked, I'm gonna tell you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Don't
not like
ask if
I'm
you don't
great,
wanna
I'm fine. How
know.
are you? Just wonderful. Like I can't stand that.
No, halfway through my workout the other
Yeah.
day, I realized that my stretchy pants, I had washed them and a pair of undies got static clinged to it.
Wait, the undies were attached to your pants?
So they were on the inside. But
Oh,
yeah,
you
I had
felt
like a
them.
bunch. And I was just like, what the fuck
Hilarious.
is this? I'm like in the middle of my workout. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I have undies in my pants. And I announced to this room of 30 people.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck are you doing, bitch? Get a filter. But the
Yeah.
truth of it is,
It
it's
looks
like,
nice.
it is. And
Yes.
I am hoping
Yeah.
that sticks because
Let's try.
honestly, after 40 years of living as a people pleaser, that's what my shirt says, recovering
people pleaser.
Yeah, I love it.
Like, it's just like, who the fuck cares? And I think, like, I was going to ask you, do you think it's an age thing or like you just get to a certain point where you've had, let's say, so many experiences and even your failures, you're like, yeah, but I still got up the next day and I still lived my life and the world still turned. Like, is it an age thing? Is it an accomplishment thing? Is it, for me, a lot of it was becoming a mom and having something bigger than myself that I had to worry about. And I couldn't really think like, oh, do I have one weird chin hair or is my kid about to fall off this cliff? Like all of a sudden you kind of have some perspective. So,
Right.
I wonder what the two of you think about that. Is it just
It's hard
getting
to know
a
because
point?
it goes the same. It follows the same path,
The same
right?
trajectory.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
hard to know.
Yeah.
Or you just get to a point where you're just like, I don't care.
I just
anymore.
don't care. It's
I just don't care
exhausting.
anymore.
Because I
Or maybe
see-
you're just
And a
exhausted.
time
Yeah.
thing
I
too.
think it's
Like for me, a lot of
exhausted.
it was exhaustion.
I think it's exhaustion.
Like
and
I just
being a
don't
mom
wanna
also
pretend to be
tires you
somebody.
out.
Also
Oh yeah,
exhausting.
You're just emotionally and every other way exhausted. You don't have time for people's BS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
But like I love talking to grandparents or
Yeah.
like, elderly folk. They give no fucks.
sure,
And it's so lovely. And I often was like, I want to get to that point where I just don't care what people think. And I'm just going to do what makes me feel good. And if that means, wearing a muumuu or I don't know, like sleeping in bed for too long. I don't even know.
Right.
These are horrible
Yeah.
examples. But
For me, it's, I think of Moira Rose. Do you guys watch Schitt's
Oh
Creek?
my gosh.
So I'm like, be like Moira.
Be
Don't
like
Don't
Moira.
be like Moira because then you're trying to be somebody else.
Oh, I love
would
her.
Moira do?
I love her character.
She doesn't give
Yeah.
a shit.
She doesn't give a shit.
And that's who I think of. I'm like,
Yeah.
be like Moira Rose. And then I also kept a note and I have a sticky with CWLOT. I don't know. It looks kind of funny. It sounds kind of dirty. And it's care less what others think.
I like that.
Oh.
But the funny thing is, I made it an acronym because I had it in my phone and I didn't want anyone to know what it was. So I'm like, oh my God. That's whole opposite of what it's supposed to do, right?
love
But now it's
that.
just funny for me. But I have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's a big
care
thing
less.
too. It's like care less what others think.
I think we can't totally give it up because there are so many things that come, but if we can at least just dial it down a little bit.
Or not let that impact major life choices.
Correct.
Like if you
Yes.
want to get up every day, brush your teeth, brush your hair, and look good before you leave the house, cool.
Yeah.
But maybe that other people's voices don't impact these major life choices.
It's hard to quiet those voices.
It is
Yeah.
very hard.
It's
It
like
is a
Runaway
practice.
Bride. I'm totally dating
Yes.
myself, but in Runaway Bride, Julia
best.
Roberts doesn't know what kind of eggs she likes.
Mm.
And it's like every guy she dates, she has the type of eggs they have.
Right.
And then she finally realizes, I don't even know what kind of eggs I like.
Yeah.
So it's
Right.
like, figure out what kind of eggs you like.
Figure them
without
out.
anyone else's
Yes.
opinions.
And you know what's
Yeah.
going to help you figure out what kind of eggs you like?
Your book.
Shannon Talbot's book, Breaking Free. So go get the book.
Go get
It's
it.
available on Amazon. We're going to include the link in our show notes. Any last thoughts you want to share with our listeners before we let you go?
Just go do the visioning exercise.
Yeah.
Picture your life 10 years from now. Get those feelings down of how you want to feel. And then pick one tiny, small action step you can take towards that, because all it takes is one step a day at a time and you will get there.
Love it.
So nice. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for being on Dirty
having me.
Laundry.
This
This was so fun. Appreciate you.
This episode was written and created by Alex Howard and Amanda Silver. Produced, edited, and engineered by RTF Productions. Make sure to rate and review our show if you loved it, and give us a follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you stream your podcast to stay up to date on all upcoming episodes. Thanks for listening, and go easy on us. We're not your ex.